One of the top ranked wrestlers in the class of 2025, he adds to an outstanding, stellar group of lightweights that are at Penn State. Meet incoming true freshman, Nate Desmond.
You are Locked On Nittany Lions, your daily podcast on the Penn State Nittany Lions. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are locked on to Penn State Wrestling, and as always, thank you so much for making Locked On Nittany Lions your first listen and watch every single day, your daily source for all things Penn State sports. My name is Zach Sako, and I am your host of the show, credentialed media member for both Penn State Wrestling and Penn State Football. Today's show is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. Well, the interviews have returned, and this time we get to talk to Nate Desmond, just outside of the top 30 in the overall pound-for-pound rankings in the class of 2025, one of the top lightweights, conservatively top 5 in the entire country. Nate and I had the privilege to discuss with him his goals, his aspirations, what he's working on as a wrestler, his mindset, what it's like to be a part of this elite class of 2025, and what they hope to accomplish collectively. We're going to get to know Nate as a person, as a wrestler. So without further ado, here is this exclusive interview with incoming true freshman Nate Desmond here on Locked On Nittany Lions. And it is an honor to be joined by Penn State Wrestling class of 2025 commit, currently enrolled as a true freshman, Nate Desmond. Nate, thanks so much for the time. First and foremost, how's your summer been? Have you had a great summer?
Oh yeah, it's been awesome. As soon as I got here on campus, I was so excited. I mean, it really doesn't get much better. So just to have this little time to kind of adjust before I kind of get into the thick of everything is good. And meeting all of these guys, it's been a blast. So yeah.
I'd like to say that you have some free time, but you and your fellow teammates are very much busy. So like I said, I really appreciate this. And we're going to talk about all of it. Joining Penn State, your aspirations as a wrestler. Let's get right into it. So you considered a lot of other elite schools in addition to Penn State. What ultimately made Penn State becoming a Nittany Lion feel like the perfect idea of home for you?
Well, so for me, I feel like it's always kind of been Penn State. And a lot of those visits were a lot of fun. And it kind of offered a new perspective to kind of see what else is out there and maybe ask myself why I wanted to go here, But there's like baby pictures of me literally as an infant. I think when I was born, there was a Penn State football game going on the TV, my dad said, and there's like a picture of me like as like a little baby with a Penn State hat on. So it's just like kind of it's been a thing that I've kind of always thought about. And my aunt obviously goes here, so she pushed for me to go here in addition to all of that other stuff. But yeah, I mean, for wrestling, it doesn't get any better. For what I want to do in life, it doesn't really get much better. So this is just the best spot. As far as like other aspects, I mean, all these people are, for the most part, pretty faith-driven or are actively seeking out, a better lifestyle. And I think that's just important if you want to be a good wrestler or person. So.
Now you're part of a stacked 2025
Right.
recruiting class between Masanosuke Ono and Marcus Blaze, William Hankel, who you're actually roommates with, Asher Cunningham, PJ Duke, Dalton Perry. How excited are you to be a part of this class and to get to know these guys, for the next 4 or 5 years or so? And what do you think this group can achieve together?
Well, obviously, I mean, the accolades of most of these guys kind of speak, on their own. And I don't need to say a whole lot about any of that. But I think what's really cool is I've kind of grown up around these guys. Like, Dalton, I used to go to his house when I was 8 years old, and him and Will and me are all living together. And then, I would see PJ and I would wrestle Marcus. And so we've all kind of like been around each other and like I've been on teams with Asher too as well. So it's like, it's just kind of funny. It's interesting that we all ended up here and we all kind of did our own thing for a while, and now we're all at this one place trying to like get the same goal. And so for me, that's like, I don't know, it's kind of interesting.
Let me ask you about this. Is there a chemistry element to the sport of wrestling, do you think? Because it is very, yes, there's the team goals,
Yeah.
the team records, the team championships and accolades, but it's very individually driven. Do you think there's a chemistry element that being friends, being so close with all these guys in your class, that adds an extra benefit to what a Penn State lineup could look like going up against other opponents?
Yeah, I think you know, it kind of just raises the standard a little bit. Like typically in normal high school or college rooms, there'd be like a couple guys who are really good, but we're all like within, a block of each other. We're basically neighbors, and we all are kind of on the same path, I guess you would say, and we're all trying to kind of get, specific things done. And it's like when one guy picks up the pace a little bit, it's like everyone tries to kind of match it. And so I think that just really brings the quality of character and wrestling up a little bit.
Now, specifically the lightweights.
Yeah.
You're going to be training. You're going to be training a lot with Marcus Blaze, Ono, Luke Lilladall on a regular basis. What is it going to be like to spar with them? Iron sharpens iron and everything, but to be able to work alongside those guys on a regular basis.
Yeah, I've kind of got a little bit of a taste for it now. Like I've wrestled with them quite a bunch. I wrestled with Masa a little bit for the first time not too long ago. So, I mean, they're great partners, and I think what's interesting is they all have like their own little components that make them really good to their style of wrestling that are different. And so there's like a lot to learn from the way they wrestle versus, maybe how I view things. So
now actually being on campus and it really starting to settle in, what are you looking forward to the most about being at Penn State presently going into your freshman season, and then working with assistant coach Nick Lee, who he hasn't been coaching very long. He was just on the team, just a few years back.
I mean, I don't want to sit here and just be another guy. I do want to separate myself, and with all these good guys coming in, that's not an easy task to accomplish. So I think for me, it's just going to be focusing on the little things, throughout the course of this next year, slowly making these little improvements and hoping that, I get to my end goal of being a national champ. So that's kind of what I'm looking for.
And that's a perfect segue into what I was going to ask next. What can you tell us about your short-term and long-term goals for Penn State? And then, maybe on the international stage, what weight class will you be focusing on initially? Because you've competed at 57, 61 kilos, or you could wrestle at 125 or 133 at Penn State. So what are your goals for NCAA and folk style and international and freestyle that you can tell us about?
I mean, the goals are, pretty simple. Like I don't want to lose, and I intend on, winning these next couple of national championships, but I don't want to just kind of go through the motions. I want to find ways to make this enjoyable, and I really like my time here while also learning a lot. As far as weight class, I've been experimenting a lot this year, especially this summer, like kind of just going back and forth and just seeing where I feel like I'm most optimal. So I think that'll be a decision I maybe make, after certifications and everything, and just get through like the bulk of like the summer session. But as far as like international success, I want to be a world and Olympic champ, and I want to be a national champion for folk style. So it's just like, my short-term goals are more based on small adjustments, because you can't really, become 10 times better in one practice, but you can make a small adjustment. So that's kind of something I've been focusing on.
Still to come on this exclusive interview with Penn State wrestler Nate Desmond. Nate talks about, gives clarity a little more to his goals, his aspirations for his time as a Nittany Lion. He also talks about the adversity, what it's like to handle tough defeats. We're going to get into all of that next here on Locked On Nittany Lions. And today's episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Do you ever wish managing your money felt easier? Well, with Monarch Money, it can. Whether you're growing your savings or planning a big purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO. Now, that gives you full visibility and control over your finances, because Monarch Money is more than just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center where you can track all of your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So in addition to managing your money, you're also building wealth. And I think one of the best features on Monarch Money is the fact that you can track all of your purchases. So that's what they mean by spending. So whether that's dining out, groceries, package deliveries, you can track all of those subscriptions and manage all of them. And if you have a partner, managing money with your partner is seamless. It's easy. So if you have joint accounts, you can do all of that and manage things together. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for, get this, 50% off your first year. That's right, half off your first year over at monarchmoney.com. Code LOCKEDONCollege for 50% off your first year. Perfect segue into the next question. So you talk about your goals of becoming an Olympic and a world champion. So specifically about those freestyle, the techniques, the strategies that what are you working right now specifically that build toward that dream, or that you have been focusing on with what you've been able to, with your competition over the summer?
Yeah. Well, I mean, wrestling's wrestling, right? So as far as like the difference between folk style and freestyle, there's some things that are different, obviously top and bottom parterre versus, just the stylistic component of that type of stuff. But as far as, I'll get a feel for Masa, like you said, and he's established on the world level already. And Luke obviously has been established and won some age level stuff. So it's like to have that feel in freestyle. And then I've always kind of been like a folk style guy. Like I'm good on top and bottom. So it's just like, I'm not too worried about any of that. I'm just kind of just feeling it out and gaining experience through the room.
And you just recently competed at the U20 trials. You've had some dominant performances over the summer, but you did face some tough losses as you got towards the ends of those tournaments. What did you take away from those matches? And to extend that, how would you say that you've handled some adversity over your career? Because you had a really strong start, great start to your high school career, which we'll get to in just a moment, but just kind of combining those two aspects where, you build some momentum, you have strong performances early on, and then maybe the tournament or a performance doesn't go your way right at the end. What can you take away about all of those matches specifically?
I mean, yeah, it's tough. It leaves a sour taste in my mouth. And honestly, like, I'm not necessarily proud of the way I wrestled or the way I competed. I feel like I was worried about things that maybe don't really reflect, my actual wrestling ability and stuff that really doesn't matter. But as far as like, having success in the past, I think it's important to just kind of put that stuff behind and move forward. I mean, it's been good to be in some high caliber matches and wrestle at these big tournaments, but this is like a new step and this is a restart. And so all that's kind of behind me. So I'm just going to kind of just work on simple stuff and see what I can fix.
And that's the Penn State mindset, right? Every event, every practice, every performance is a stepping stone to get closer to your goals, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So let's go backwards a little bit. High school career, and even before that, honestly, what got you into wrestling? What made this sport so appealing, so interesting early on? Was it something that, took a little bit, but as you got adjusted, you said, hey, I can see myself doing this for years? Or was it right out of the gate, I love this sport, there's nothing that's going to take it away from me?
Yeah, I wish I could say that. So my whole family, my grandfather ran a wrestling club. My uncles wrestled in high school, and they all won state championships and went Division I. And when I started out, it was just, I don't know, everyone just assumed I was going to be this good wrestler right off the bat. And I was like terrible. Like I don't know if I won a single intramural match. I think I got pinned every match my first maybe 2 to 3 years of wrestling. And then at some point when I was maybe 7 or 8 years old, I went to like the Mawa tournament, and I saw like some little success. I don't know, maybe I placed or something like that. And from then on, it was like, I mean, I can be good. It's just like, how much do I actually want to do it? I tried other sports and I just wasn't, like, even now to this day, if you throw a football at me, I probably won't catch it. It's just like, it's one of those things where it's like odd because I look athletic when I wrestle, but I'm really not. It's just weird. But yeah. So eventually I got the hang of it, went to some state tournaments, and then went to all these dual tournaments growing up and wrestled at my club. And I started to get, pretty good. And then from there, it kind of just became like something I did. And we focused a lot on it. I know it's tough on my parents, especially having two athletes kind of doing their own thing. Like my sisters just went to Oklahoma for gymnastics, so we're all over the place. We've been traveling everywhere since we were like probably 8-9 years old, trying to find the best competition. So it's just like it's kind of the standard that we've had in our house. But yeah, I'm grateful for all of that, and I think that without people like my sister and my family around me, I probably wouldn't be where I'm at right now. So
that's a great story, and really appreciate that insight into your family dynamic and everything. And it shows that athleticism just seems to run naturally in your family. Let's talk about your time at Bethlehem Catholic, because you started off 80-3 overall in your first 2 years. Again, then this is your freshman and sophomore seasons. You win 2 state titles. You run through districts, regionals, and states. And then you transfer to Wyoming Seminary. So kind of talk about those first 2 seasons where you're at Becca Catholic, and then you go to Wyoming Seminary for your final 2 years for your junior and senior years in prep.
Yeah. So, a lot of the guys from my club, including myself and my dad, also helped with the program for a while at Bethlehem Catholic, all kind of, transitioned there. And that was kind of going to be our thing. And I think just over time, we all kind of just had our own plans. But it was good to get those 2 years with those guys. Like I still talk to all those guys. We're still friends and everything. And it was just like one of those things for me where I just needed to see out what I thought was best for myself. Obviously, like the state stuff was always a goal growing up. I grew up in PA. I wanted to go to Penn State. So I wanted to be a 4-time state champ. And somewhere along the line, I felt like my goal kind of just changed. Like it was no longer about a number or anything like that. Like in my mind, it was like, if I stay here, I'm probably going to win, but I don't know if I'm going to get any better. I might just win just because I'm good enough. You know what I mean? So it was one of those things where for my long-term progression, I just thought that maybe taking some steps somewhere else would be better for me. I also took a couple of losses at the Ironman to the same person over and over. And it was just like, I need to make a change. I don't know what it is. I felt like I was doing everything right, and I just wasn't getting it done. So.
And Wyoming Seminary, one of the most redeeming qualities about the program that they have is they emphasize personal growth off the mat. Can you speak to that? Can you share an example of how that philosophy has influenced you beyond the sport of wrestling?
Yeah. I mean, so before I maybe got to Wyoming Seminary, it was like I didn't have to try very hard at all in school. And so I wouldn't necessarily put forth my best effort. And I feel like that kind of, I wouldn't say that transition, like that didn't really affect my wrestling much, which is odd, but it did like other aspects of my life. It was like I was just kind of just going through the motions, and I was bored, and it was just like, it was bad for probably my mental health and everything. So when I moved over to Wyoming Seminary and I saw like the way these guys viewed school and carry themselves, and now I had to live on campus. So it was like I had all these tasks that I had to complete in order to just like be a functioning person. It was just like a different perspective, and it was something I probably needed to kind of grow up a little bit.
Still to come on this exclusive interview with Nate Desmond. Nate gives insight to more of his high school career and some previous battles that he's had with an Iowa Hawkeye commit and how he's gone back and forth with that wrestler. He's also going to talk about what inspires him as a competitor. That is all coming up next here on the show. And again, it shows up in the results, because you did win a national prep championship at 120 pounds in your final year of high school of prep. And if I'm not mistaken, defeating Leo DeLuca, who's currently enrolled and going to be an Iowa Hawkeye for the foreseeable future. So kind of go through that match, or the build up and through the tournament and everything, the mindset, the preparation, defeating, a fellow top ranked elite wrestler who, potentially you could meet down the road, but just kind of relive that experience for us.
Yeah. So, I mean, he was killing it all year. He won the Ironman. So this was the third year I didn't win that one. I felt like I was kind of close. But then I wrestled him at the Blair Sem Duel, and I wrestled all right. I didn't think I wrestled my best, honestly, but I lost and he beat me, and it was a good match for him. And I felt like I don't know. It seemed kind of grim. So there was a lot of adjustments to make, like in a short period of time. I probably had like a week and a half turnaround. I had to keep my weight down and everything, and I had to get ready for the prep states where I would face, guys from Malvern Prep. So it was just like, it was a lot to have to deal with really quick. But I think what I did differently is I just viewed it different. Like I knew that it was possible. And I don't know if it was like, when I wrestled that other match, I maybe got a feel for him or something like that. But I mean, the second time, it just felt like everything I was doing was just clicking. And I wasn't like thinking about it to the point where, I would stress mindset. And I feel like that's maybe a mistake people make, is like, let's worry about this because it's a problem. But I feel like when you address like a mindset problem, you're creating a bigger one in and of itself. So it's just, it was kind of just something I put on the back burner. And I was like, I'm just going to do what I can until these 2 weeks are up. And then, my junior year will be over anyway. So I kind of just went out, and I wasn't just going to get pushed around like I did the other match. Like, that wasn't my plan at all. I saw these other guys winning before me, and I was like, I want to be part of this. I kind of want to take over here. And so that was just like how I viewed the whole situation.
Speak to mindset a little bit, because maybe some people don't give it enough credit of how important it is. Where would you kind of put that percentage marker when you say, okay, 100% of everything that makes me a great and elite wrestler, an elite competitor, how much of that would you say people should devote to mindset when they're approaching this sport?
Yeah, it's super important, right? Like, obviously, if your mind's not right, you're not going to wrestle very well. And I can speak from experience when I was, when I was young. That was a lot of the problem, was I just thought I was not all that good. So I would just go out and just not even really put forth any effort. I feel like you can't let your negative thoughts impact your whole mood before you go out. You have to kind of redirect and just focus on like the task at hand, and just like, I don't know, just don't make it as serious, I would say, is like any advice I would have. The more serious you make it, obviously within reason, but it can stress you out and ruin your day, and that's not good for your wrestling. So
we're going to get to the final part of the interview here, some more personal questions, but I feel like we've really gotten to know Nate pretty well to this point in time, just to, based on what you've told us about your competition, being a competitor, your background. Now, let's specifically about your style. How would you describe your style of wrestling to Penn State fans who haven't seen you compete to this point?
I'd say all over the place. I wouldn't necessarily say that, especially when I'm wrestling in big matches. There's not really anything that I like feel like I repeat that much. Like, I have some stuff that I do, but I mean, I kind of just make it up as I go. And I feel like that's a good way to be, because then you can't really get game planned for. So
is there a wrestler that you've mimicked that after, or a coach that taught you that, whether that's past or present, somebody that you really model your game after or draw inspiration from?
Yeah. Well, my club coach was my uncle growing up, Seth Trusuli. And so he had all these, like, we would do like these series of moves. I probably did over, I want to say I went through it probably 10,000 times just growing up, the same couple of series, because I wouldn't miss a day when I was younger if I was sick or if anything hurt. Now I'm getting to the point where that's not really feasible, but yeah, so I would just do what we were doing at that point, and it would never be like, hey, we want you to go out and do this move. It would just be like, dude, just like figure it out. And so that's kind of just how I wrestle. I try to, now I'm trying to actually put together like a system, but it's all just like stuff I kind of just feel and then transition from that point going forward. So
what's something about you off the mat that people might not expect to know about you?
I don't know. I feel like I'm pretty regular. I just kind of just go with the flow, and I don't know. I'm kind of hyper, so I kind of do a lot of different things. I would say that's something. But
what's your go-to pre-match song or pre-practice or go-to snack or food?
Oh, those are very different. I'm trying to think. I wouldn't say I have a pre-match song. I would just say that before I go out, I do always listen to something to kind of just like, let my mind relax, something that I'm familiar with, not, too crazy, because my heart rate's usually already up. I'm already probably, we're like thinking about whatever's coming up. So it's just like, I kind of got to bring myself back a little bit. So I try to keep, a positive attitude and chill out. But yeah.
Final question. Do you have a message for Penn State wrestling fans as now you are officially on campus, but do you have a message for the wrestling fans on behalf of the class of 2025 and yourself of what to expect for the next few years?
Yeah, I'd say for the fans for our class, I'd just say be ready because it's going to be crazy probably. And, we're coming for the title. So that's kind of it.
Penn State class of 2025 commit, currently enrolled as a true freshman, Nate Desmond, joining us here on Locked On Nittany Lions. Nate, thanks so much for the time. Like I said, I really appreciate it here with how busy you are and have been. And, hopefully we get to talk in the not too distant future to catch up. But like I said, thank you so much and best of luck in your first season at Penn State.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. Yeah, thanks.
And once again, thanks so much for checking out this exclusive interview and this episode of Locked On Nittany Lions. And a big thank you again to Nate for taking time out of his busy schedule to join the show. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments section as always. And thank you to the everydayers for making us a part of your regular routine. If you're not an everydayer, become one. Subscribe to the YouTube channel and wherever you get your podcasts for the latest conversations so you don't miss anything, whether it's wrestling, these exclusive interviews, football, basketball, recruiting. It is all right here on Locked On Nittany Lions, and we're going to have plenty more previewing the Penn State football team, off-season questions and discussion topics around Penn State wrestling and Penn State basketball. It is all right here on your daily source for all things Penn State sports, Locked On Nittany Lions.